What's up everyone, and welcome back to another video here on Auto Wisdom. Today we're going to be covering the ownership experience of my daily driver, which was a 2016 BMW G12 740i. I recently sold the car, and at the time of the sale the odometer was approximately 99,800 miles. So for the sake of this video we'll just round it up to about 100,000, and I wanted to share my experience of owning the car, driving it every single day, the pros, the cons, the servicing required, and what it was like to own the G12 now that these cars are coming up on over a decade of age. So let's talk about the car in question, a 2016 BMW 740i that was finished in Magellan Gray Metallic over a black Dakota leather interior. The car was the extended wheelbase model. Because I am in the US market, every single 7 Series that was produced for the G12 was equipped with the extended wheelbase, which gives you first class levels of legroom for the rear seat occupants, and I think is totally worth it. My car was relatively sparsely equipped with just the executive package, which includes power rear window shades, 22-way ventilated front seats, a head-up display, a Napa leather wrapped dashboard, as well as upper door cards for the front and rear doors, and ceramic controls that replace many of the plastic knobs and buttons. Aside from that, the car was equipped with all standard features, including the base 18-inch wheels that rode on a set of 245 by 70 by 18 all-season tires. Let's talk about the things that I like with this car. It is an absolutely joyous experience to drive for long-distance driving, highway driving, cruising, and with other occupants and passengers in the rear seats as well as in the passenger seat. This car is so incredibly smooth. It is so well isolated. The suspension with the double wishbone setup on the front axle, as well as the air springs and dampers, make for such a adjustable and plush, smooth driving experience that really is so incredibly comfortable. Whether it's undulations in the road surface, or an uneven freeway, or a bumpy street, or whatever the case really is, this car just soaks up bumps and imperfections on the road surface with complete ease, and really the car just eats up miles effortlessly. The use of high quality bushings to absorb NVH through the cabin, acoustic insulated glass, and high quality materials really help to isolate you. And my car was equipped with the Harman Kardon audio system, which comes standard on the G12 chassis for the 7 Series, and it really, I had no complaints with it. It sounds absolutely excellent, and while I'm not a audio buff in terms of stereo systems, I really did feel like on the highways I was riding in my own little sound studio, just with the combination of lack of road and wind noise from the exterior paired with the stereo system that was cranked up on the inside. Truly an epic experience. This car also has pretty good driving dynamics for what it is. As mentioned previously, the double wishbone suspension setup with the EDC dampers, put it into Sport Plus, it'll lower the ride height, it'll stiffen up the dampers electronically, and with the carbon core chassis that includes a number of lightweight materials including CFRP and aluminum throughout the chassis of the vehicle, you get great ride dynamics, a decent amount of agility, and a relatively low curb weight. 4,300 pounds is not light by any means, but when you're talking about a car that is essentially a land yacht that competes against long body, long wheelbase vehicles like the Audi A8, the Mercedes S-Class, and vehicles in that luxury tier, this car doesn't weigh a whole lot, coming in at, like I said, 4,300 pounds. I do think the exceptional ride quality was also a part of that 18-inch wheel setup with the pretty thick tire sidewalls that were really helping to absorb a lot of that NVH and really allow the suspension and the rest of the bodywork to kind of do its thing in terms of giving you that comfortable driving experience. The B58 engine is powerful. It's a 3-liter turbocharged inline-6 engine. It's used in a number of BMWs. It's pretty stout, very reliable to be quite honest with you, and paired up to that ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, the programming on the shifting is so good. It's so smooth in the 7 Series. The steering is nice and light, and it's just a very smooth, supple driving experience. And that's exactly what the 7 Series aims to deliver, and it sure does on all of those fronts. So in terms of how these cars drive, they still very much execute on that BMW vision of being a driver's car, even though the mission of a 7 Series is really to provide luxury, comfort, spaciousness, quiet. It still does have that BMW DNA in the G12 chassis. Now, what did I not like? For one, I was not the biggest fan of the seats in the vehicle. They are very wide and they do support a diverse array of body types, but I did feel as though the standard Dakota leather on the seats was a little bit hard and it was not very plush. Didn't necessarily conform to your body when you sat in it. And the lack of bolstering, because it's such a luxurious and non-sporty vehicle, was not that great. And for me, as someone that does appreciate that driver aspect from sportier vehicles and BMWs, I do wish the seats just in general were a little more plush, like in an S-Class, and I do wish that they had a little bit more aggressive bolstering just to kind of really hug you in the driver's seat and really make you feel one with the car, regardless of whether it's a sports car or a large land yacht sedan. That is something that I would have appreciated. I did also feel like some of the throttle calibration in the vehicle left a little bit to be desired, and once again, these are nitpicking critiques. Overall, like I said, the experience was fantastic with ownership, but in terms of throttle calibration, I do feel like there was a slight delay when I would hit the accelerator. Maybe this was just specific to my particular 740i, and I don't know if maybe other owners are watching this video in the comment section, they can chime in, but I did feel as though as I was driving and kind of rolling to a stop, if I did have to hit the accelerator again to get going, there was almost a slight delay, almost between the like the driveline kind of kicking back in and the car starting to accelerate. It did just feel a little sluggish and lazy. I mainly drove this car in the Comfort Plus setting because I really wanted it to be just smooth and just really to get that cloud-like experience when driving the car on a daily basis. And I do understand that in sport mode, Sport Plus, Sport Individual, you can, you know, the throttle calibration and the throttle mapping becomes a lot more aggressive. But I do wish that in the Comfort Plus setting, it was configurable to have a slightly sharper throttle response, as I did feel like the car felt very, very lazy. While I appreciated how soft and supple it was, I did want a little bit more reaction out of the car, particularly with the throttle. That was something that really stood out to me. Let's go ahead and talk about servicing as well as issues that I encountered throughout my ownership of the vehicle. So I purchased the car with approximately 78,000 miles and I sold it with right around 100,000 miles on the odometer. And I did run into a few issues throughout my ownership experience. Number one was a B58 specific issue that there was actually a open TSB for, I believe, or some sort of extended recall, if I'm not mistaken. And that was in relation to the positive crankcase ventilation valve, or the PCV, that's embedded into the valve cover of the B58 engine. So for the Gen 1 B58 inline sixes, this is a known issue. Basically, the way I discovered it on my car was I left the car idling for, I think, maybe 12 to 15 minutes, and I started to hear a very loud tea kettle whistling sound coming from the engine. It was very loud and noisy, and then as I slowly drove off, there was a plume of white smoke coming out of the exhaust, which nearly gave me a heart attack, because for a second I thought it was some major catastrophic engine related issue, but it wasn't. It just had to do with the PCV. Now it's under warranty. BMW actually extended the factory warranty to 15 years, or about 150,000 miles, whichever comes first, depending on your VIN and build date. Your car may or may not be covered. Mine was, and so I took it to a local BMW dealership and they replaced it without any issue. Following that, the coolant expansion tank actually cracked on me. This was around 83,000 miles and it started spewing coolant. Now with the B58s, there's two coolant expansion tanks. You have one for the main engine coolant, and then you have a second for the air-to-water intercooler system for the engine. Now this was the main engine coolant expansion tank that had cracked, so I ordered a new one. I think I just ordered like an aftermarket OE replacement unit from Amazon and replaced it in my driveway for like 50 or 60 bucks. Not a big deal. Refilled the coolant system, bled it, and we were good to go. Following that, at around, I want to say 89,000 miles, I had another coolant leak. This time it was a much more serious one, which was from the oil filter housing unit, as well as the water neck, or the engine coolant outlet pipe that connects the engine block to the upper radiator hose. That little water neck, it's a little plastic piece, is prone to cracking over time and basically failing, as well as the oil filter housing unit, which is a very common issue on these cars as they age, and that leads to more coolant leaks, and it's really something you want to address because you don't want to have catastrophic coolant loss, which could then lead to engine overheating issues, and that can be a huge problem. If you warp the head, it's an aluminum head on the B58, head gasket issues, that just creates a lot of problems. So I had the oil filter housing replaced, as well as the water neck replaced during that time. I also had an oil change done, and I think I also had the spark plugs replaced to take care of just kind of everything while the car was under the knife. And from there, I was good to go. The only other issue I had with the vehicle, and I never was able to confirm whether or not this indeed was a true problem, was with the AC. I noticed that when I had purchased the car, the AC did not blow particularly cold, but it was cool. It just was not icy cold as an AC system should be when it's set to the lowest temperature setting. And so I recharged the AC system, and I remember when I had plugged up the AC recharge kit to the AC line, the Freon level was low. It was below spec, and so I recharged it per the instructions, and we were good to go after that. But I noticed that just a few weeks later, the AC kind of stopped blowing cold again, and while it was sending cool air through the vents, it just wasn't icy cold. It was just this slightly cold kind of AC, and it was just struggling to cool the car off. And for anyone that lives in SoCal, you'll know how hot it can be in the summers, and so it was just kind of a struggle to get the car to cool down. I also did notice that there was a faint hissing sound coming from the HVAC when I would turn on the fans and particularly activate the AC. So I think there may have been some sort of Freon leak in the car that was present, and I don't know if maybe it was coming from the evaporator or one of the AC lines or something like that. That was really the only other issue. Otherwise, overall, it was a fantastic car, and like I said, the powertrain and drivetrain are super reliable on these cars. In terms of the electronics, like the ambient lighting, the head-up display, the power shades, everything else was fantastic, zero issues whatsoever. But it was not a perfect or flawless ownership experience, which is kind of to be expected. I did not have a warranty in this car as well, so you know, you're paying out of pocket for these expenses. But nonetheless, for the car and how cheap these G12s have gotten, I do think it is worth the expense, as long as you just kind of budget accordingly and do a little bit of research into what sort of issues to expect along the way. You'll be just fine. So overall, would I recommend a G12 chassis 740i to somebody that's in the market for one of these cars? Absolutely, I would. Like I said, they are such great cars. They just look so classy, or even aggressive, especially if you spec one that's blacked out with like the M Sport package and the M Sport wheels. They are just the last of that really tasteful, classy, traditional BMW design language before they kind of strayed away. And now the new 7, well, it's very subjective in terms of looks. So the last thing I'll cover is why did I sell it? Well, I'm relatively young. I'm looking for something a little more sporty. It's just me. I'm single, no kids, no family. Really don't need a huge daily driver like that. And while it was great for when I did have passengers in the car, I don't have passengers in the car all too often. And so I really want something, maybe a sports sedan or just a sports car, something that I can really have fun with when I'm not going to the track, that can also kind of do the daily driver duties. So that is going to wrap it up for my ownership experience with the 740i. I hope you guys enjoyed. As mentioned in the beginning of this video, if you did enjoy the content, please leave a like as well as subscribe down below. And with all that being said, I will catch you all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.